Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Gallagher, and today we're going to discuss slope-intercept form. So the slope-intercept form of a line makes it easy to graph a line. The slope-intercept form is another way to graph a line. So we have a formula for slope-intercept form, and it is y equals mx plus b. And we need your m and your b to graph the line. Now we discussed our m. Our m stands for our slope. So our m is equal to slope, which is also equal to your rise over your run. So your slope, your m value, is equal to slope, and that's equal to your rise over your run. So when we're using slope-intercept form, we're using the rise over run method. Your b is equal to your y-intercept. So your b is equal to your y-intercept. And your y-intercept is the point on the y-axis when x is equal to 0. So your y-intercept is the point on the y-axis when your x is equal to 0. So your coordinate will look like 0, b, and b stands for the y-intercept. So your coordinate would be 0, b, and b stands for your y-intercept, So let's look at the examples below. It says identify the slope and y-intercept of the graph of each equation. So number 1, it states y equals 3x plus 1. And we're going to use the slope-intercept form to find our slope and our y-intercept. So the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Now your m is always your number in front of the x value. So our m in this problem is equal to 3, our slope. But remember, your slope is your rise over run. So you want to create a fraction with it. So to create a fraction, we're going to put it over 1. So our slope is 3 over 1. Next, let's identify our b value. Our b value is after the x plus. So your b value right here is equal to a positive 1. So my b is equal to 1. Now for the coordinate, because we want to graph our coordinate, we're going to graph our x is 0 and our y is 1. So to graph the coordinate 0, 1. So now let's look at our next example, number 2, y equals negative x plus 4. Again, we're going to use our formula, y equals mx plus b. Our m stands for our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. Let's identify our m. Your m is always the number before the x, and if you notice it says negative x. And remember, when you have a negative x, the number in front of the x is 1. So your m is equal to negative 1. Now you want it in a fraction form for rise over run. So it's going to equal negative 1 over 1. Now let's find our b value. Our b value would be a positive 4 plus 4. So your b is 4. Therefore, your coordinate would be your x is equal to 0, your y is equal to 4. Let's look at example 3. Y equals 1/2 x minus 2. Again, we use our formula, y equals mx plus b. So we're going to identify our m in this problem. Remember, it's always the number in front of your x, so your m is equal to 1/2. So our m is 1/2. It's already in fraction form, so your rise is 1 and your run is 2. Now identify our b. Our b is right here. Notice there's a subtraction sign, so actually that means your b is a negative 2. So you have subtraction sign in front, it's going to take on a negative, negative 2. Therefore, your coordinate would be 0, negative 2. All right, so now let's discuss how we're going to graph a line. We just identified our slope and our intercept. Now let's graph a line. So how do you graph a line using the equation y equals mx plus b? Step 1, you want to identify the slope, which is your m value, and y-intercept, which is your b value. So step 1, we want to identify the slope, our m, and the y-intercept, which is our b value, which we just in the previous 3 examples, identifying your slope and y-intercept. Step 2, you want to graph the y-intercept, your b. So step 2, you want to graph the y-intercept, which is our b. Step 3, You're going to start at the y-intercept and graph your slope by using the rise over run method. So step 3, we're going to start at the y-intercept and graph the slope by using the rise over run method. And now step 4, we're going to draw the line and label it with the equation. So step 4, we're going to draw the line and label it with the equation. So now let's graph the lines using the slope-intercept form. So let's read our directions. It says, graph the line using the slope-intercept form. We're going to use the formula y equals mx plus b. So let's first identify our slope, our m. Your m is always the number in front of your x. So your m is equal to 2. And you want it in a rise over run form. So you want it as a fraction. So it's 2 over 1. Now let's identify our b. And our b is equal to -3. So our coordinate would be 0, -3. So now that we have this information, let's graph it. So we just completed step 1, identifying your slope and your intercept. Step 2 is you want to graph your y-intercept. Your y-intercept is 0, -3. So let's graph that. 0, -3. That's step 2. Now, step 3 is you want to graph your rise over your run. So your rise over run is 2 over 1. So you're going to go to your intercept and you're going to rise 1, 2, and run 1. So your next coordinate would be right here. Let's do that again. You want to rise 1, 2, and run 1. Now we go to the right because this is a positive slope. So now our last step is to draw a line, and then we're going to label it y equals 2x minus 3. Let's do another example together. So we have y equals -3x. We're going to use our formula, y equals mx plus b. So now let's first identify our m. Our m value is -3. So your m is -3, but you want it as a fraction as your rise over run, so it's -3 over 1. Our b, well, what do you notice here? There is no b, so your b is 0. Therefore, your coordinate would be 0, 0, which is the origin. So that we identified our slope and our y-intercept, next step is to graph our intercept, which is the origin, 0, 0. Okay. Step 3, graph our slope using rise over run. Your slope is -3 over 1. It's a negative. So you want to rise 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to run 1 to the left because it's a negative slope. Remember, you want to create an N, you want to go downhill. Now, if you went down 3, 1, 2, 3, you would go to the right 1. All right, and our next step, you only need 2 points or 3 points. You want to draw your line and label your line y equals -3x. Let's do 2 more examples together. So example 6, y equals x plus 3. Again, let's write our formula, y equals mx plus b. So let's identify our m. So it's x plus 3. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that x. So your m is equal to 1. And you want it as a fraction as rise over run, so it's 1 over 1. Our b is a positive 3. So it equals 3. Therefore, your coordinate would be 0, 3. Next step is to graph our coordinate, 0, 3. So now we're going to go up 3, graph our y-intercept. Next, we're going to graph our slope, which is a positive 1 over 1. So you want to rise 1, and you're going to go to the right 1 because you want a positive slope. Again, rise 1 to the right 1, positive slope. Now, if you went down 1, you would go to the left 1 because you want to create a positive slope. We're going uphill. Next, draw your line, and you want to label it y equals x plus 3. And that is your answer. Let's do number 7, y equals -3x minus 1. First step, write our formula, y equals mx plus b. So let's identify our m, our slope, which is -3. So your m is equal to -3. You want it to be in rise over 1 form, so it's -3 over 1. And now our b is -1. So my coordinate would be 0, -1. Next step, graph your coordinate, 0, -1. We're going to go down 1. And now we have to graph our slope. -3 over 1. So it's negative. So you want to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and to the left, 1. Now if you went down 3, 1, 2, 3, you would go to the right 1 because you want to create a negative slope. You want to go downhill, be able to make an N. So you're going to draw your line, and we're going to label your line, y equals -3x minus 1. And that is your answer. So this is how we use a slope-intercept form to graph a line. So now what I'd like you to do is the U-try section. Please graph y equals -x plus 2 and y equals 4x minus 1, and we will discuss it in class. Thank you.